G'day. I was asked to come here, and I normally only speak to groups who buy the big issues. So those of you who put up your hands before, I thank you. For those of you who didn't put up your hands, I treat you as a prospect. And when you go out, you'll no doubt be more interested, I hope. Social enterprise. What is a social enterprise? Well, to my mind, it's a not-for-profit organisation because there's a first guiding principle behind it. And that first guiding principle is that when push comes to shove, businesses are there to make money. And so in a guiding principle, sometimes that will collide. It's got to deliver a social outcome. It's got to be policy-free. And what I mean by that in our world is it's not to be driven by government contract, advisors, change of governments left or right. So policy-free is a critical element, and it's got to be sustainable in the marketplace. Why do we actually think this is important? I guess for us, we've come to a realisation, and through the journey of my career, I've run a few not-for-profits. I've also been in business for some time, my own businesses, and the businesses that I was in was aged care. There's a few of you in the audience who are in their early 20s. I've got to thank you personally on behalf of all of us who are in the 50-year-old bracket because you're going to fund my retirement. Thank you very much, and you're going to work harder, and there's going to be fewer of you. The aged care costs are actually going to explode. We've all heard it. The aged care pensions and health costs are going to just be astronomical. So, and at the same time, proportionally, the workforce is going to not keep growth with those same numbers. So as you can see there, right here, right now, that for every one person who's in their 60s, there's 5 of us working really hard. 2050, there's only going to be 2.7 of you working for me and 1 or 2 others up here. At some stage, we're just not going to be able to afford the services that we want. The amount that we spend currently is 13%. The amount we will spend is going to increase to 23%. For my mind, where is those dollars going to come from? The Australian community is facing higher costs in aged care and healthcare, and yet we're not going to keep up with the economic growth. Is not going to be sufficient to keep up with that. So, as I mentioned, proportionally there's going to be few workers, and again, and I'll say it a couple of times today, I've just got to thank you. There's a personal debt that we owe you, all you folk in your 20s. Not only are you going to buy the magazine, you're actually going to fund my retirement. So there's not too much more I can actually expect. The government will increase their spending from $2,300 to $7,200. It's a bit of an increase, 213%. It's a massive increase. And the reason I'm so interested in these statistics, dry, boring, and statistical as these statistics are, is that I'm worried about the services that are so dear to my heart. I'm worried about those marginalised, homeless and disadvantaged people who we're all talking about trying to support in our industry. Can others take up the challenge? Yeah, maybe. In Australia, there's 41,000 NGOs. So I don't know what how many's here, but perhaps here and in the other room, maybe there's 400 or 500 people. That means that we've got our own NGO. The greatest growth of NGOs, the not-for-profit, is retired sportsmen starting another NGO. Are they creating new wealth, new ways? Unfortunately not in the main. All they're doing is swapping some dollars from other NGOs or other not-for-profits into theirs. In Australia, there's approximately 27 organisations dealing with children's cancer. Is that a noble cause? Absolutely. Is that required? Absolutely. Do we need 27 CEOs? Draw your own conclusion. Do we need 27 officers? Do we need 27 finance managers? At this stage, the not-for-profit sector, which I'm part of and been part of, is not efficient. It's not actually doing the job. We're overpopulated and we're actually growing. Also remembering that 1/3 of all the monies that come to the not-for-profit sector comes from government. And as you can see, that pot is going to diminish. But what the not-for-profits are very good at is delivering services. Is business up to it? Well, there's a thought that they can do it. And where it does work most effectively is where it's embedded in their business model. But let's just take the banking for a quick example. The banking profits combined worked out to about $126 per person in the US. In Australia, they worked out to $932. So are they any good at making money? Man, they're great. They do it really, really well. Are they any good at services? Well, where it's embedded in their business model, they're terrific. And they are exceptionally good and do enormously worthwhile. But equally, if we have a look at foreclosures, and this is a little bit dear to my heart because I work in the homeless sector. You might be fascinated to know that you're not homeless if you've got a roof over your head. And so we've got these foreclosures happening in Australia in an unprecedented rate. So are businesses good at making money? They're great. Are they good at services? Where it's embedded their business model. But profits will come first. That's what businesses are there to do, to make money. So what's our challenge? What's the options? What can we explore to do? So over the next 40 years, you've seen the gap. So what we can do is we can raise income tax by about 40% to close that gap. Who's in? Okay, 40%. That's not bad. Well, you might have to increase to a little more than 40% if you're the only one paying it. We can cut government expenditure. And government's always talking about being more efficient, etc., etc. But cutting a government expenditure by 5% is truly heroic. They can run deficits and increase debt. Is that a good thing and a bad thing? The current debate says that it's bad. I have my own personal opinion, but the current debate is leaning that way. Or we can increase the size of the economy. What we have is what we have here and now is a large tax base supporting services. 2050, it turns on its head. And we can already see in some other places, France, for example, is in the process of trying to increase the age of retirement because they know they can't afford it and they know they need workforce. Sweden, a couple of years ago, started to break down some of the social services that they have. And they're still pretty powerful over there, those services and the healthcare and the like. But they're starting to break those down on the basis that they realise, stretching out in the future, they couldn't afford it. So to the future, we've got not-for-profit and government supporting that on one side. We've got business on the other. You'd be surprised to know where I think that we can go. Social enterprise, I think it's the balance between the two. It can incorporate the services that we all need, but with a business focus. Social enterprise, in our mind, it makes social and economic sense. So what I want to do is I'm sure you'll be fascinated to look at a case study, and guess which case study I'm going to use. You might be surprised to know that it's the big issue. Who we are is a magazine enterprise. Is it a competitive industry? I listen to some organisations I get to play with on the odd occasion about, gosh, how competitive their marketplace is. The big issue, you as Australians today can access 4,500 magazines this instant. So we're in a marketplace with 4,500 competitors, both digital and in hard copy. That's a busy marketplace. we're doing that, and we're trying to assist those marginalised, homeless and disadvantaged. We've been doing this with at no cost. And we're doing this to assist people to change their lives. I thought I should do a picture at some point, so I found one. You know, I'm not good at this stuff. So someone said, you've got to do a picture. I said, all right, I'll do a picture. And the one that I could come up with is, it's been a slog. And I guess if it was easy, anyone would do it. But it's been a magnificent journey. I tried to get a picture of it was just me doing that because, you know, I don't have anybody supporting me. The reality is there's at least 3, there's at least 33, there's at least 3,000. In fact, in Australia, there's 183 people who is our readership supporting us and trudging uphill. Our history is that we started in '96 and it was a real journey. And in 2005, a few of us decided to take the business seriously as a business. And the business was to actually not go broke, make money, and to deliver services and a return to the Australian community without peer. So we started our journey. In 2005, we took our business seriously. Our position on our balance sheet started to move up in the right direction. And the most important aspect, because our model is that for every magazine that's sold, $2.50 goes directly into the pockets of the person who's selling it to you and others. And so in the course of our journey, we've assisted people earn nearly $10 million. I don't know about you, but we've worked with 4,000 people who are in really difficult circumstances, and we don't know many who are earning good incomes or incomes who choose to be homeless. So putting money in people's pockets directly equates to assisting them out of poverty and out of homelessness. The cost of homelessness, which is I've got to say, every time I look at this, I sort of shake my head and it just doesn't make sense. The average person in society costs the Australian community $1,760. The cost of homelessness 5 years ago from a New South Wales-based study was $30,000. And that's the same in America, and that's the same in London in their own currency. And reality is it's closer to $50,000 now. What are these costs that they soak up? They soak up ambulance and the judicial system. It costs $88,000 to keep someone in the correctional services. It costs about $130,000 to keep someone in juvenile detention. It costs $650 for a police call-out. It costs $800 to $900 to stay in casualty overnight. It costs society, you and I, an enormous amount to keep people on the street. What we do, our model, our case study, is that there's the standard, there's the cost of disadvantage. We drop that cost by 2/3. The benefits, access to work, social inclusion, all of those boxes that an organisation purporting to assist those people on the margins should be looking at. But then we look at an economic study. We're a business. And so our research tells us for every dollar generated, we give $4.50 back to you as the Australian community. Because we reduce the cost. And we reduce that cost every year, year after year after year after year. And so since '96, we've saved the Australian community between $80 and $100 million. And we've done it from the sweat of our own brow. So, things are getting tighter. The dollars are getting tighter, we believe. The not-for-profit sector, the primary aim is services and not dollars. Businesses' primary aim is dollars, not services. And where they collide, that's got to be a good thing. So social services, in our mind, is a proven model of delivering services on an economic, sustainable basis. And for us, as a social enterprise That equals a better and more sustainable world. Thanks for your time.